namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Vantage. We're calling it a Super Sunday on Firstpost, and we've been tracking two Indian teams today. The first is Prime Minister Modi's team that has taken oath of office for a third term. The second is India's cricket team that is playing against Pakistan in a T20 World Cup match in New York. That game is yet to begin. And on this show tonight, we'll focus on the first team. Who are the ministers? Which old names have been retained? Which new names have been added? How are the allies placed? What are the red lines and demands of these allies? There's been a lot of speculation on Prime Minister Modi's ability to handle a coalition as he's used to leading with brute majority. So we're looking back at his political career to see how he's adapted in different roles in the past. Also focusing on the economic projections, opportunities and challenges. What should be the foreign policy agenda of Modi 3.0? What does the opposition look like? And the history of oath-taking ceremonies in India. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Israel cheers the rescue of 4 hostages from Gaza. Hamas says more than 250 people were killed during the daytime raid on Saturday. Hundreds more have been injured. One Israeli officer also lost his life in the operation. During this raid, Israel launched airstrikes, reducing nearby buildings to rubble. In India, at least 9 people killed in Jammu and Kashmir after terrorists opened fire on a bus carrying pilgrims. The gunfire led to the bus falling into a gorge. The attack in the Riyasi district took place while the pilgrims were returning from a shrine. Voters across Europe cast their ballots to elect the new European Parliament. Voting took place across 20 European Union countries. On the final day of polling, the far-right parties are expected to make gains in this election. The results will shape the EU's direction over the next 5 years. Iran approves 6 presidential candidates for the 28th June vote. The winner will replace Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash last month. The candidates are mostly conservative. Only one is from the reformist camp. The Guardian Council rejected former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's candidature. Suspected Houthi attack on 2 cargo ships off the coast of Yemen. No casualties have been reported. For months now, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis have been attacking ships off its coast. Since January, the US and Britain have launched retaliatory strikes, but they have not been able to deter the Houthis. And New Zealand to end a 5-year-old ban on oil and gas exploration. The government claims the ban has stalled international investment and compromise the country's energy security. The opposition and environmental groups have slammed this decision.
Narendra Damodar Das Modi. मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा।
Narendra Modi is India's Prime Minister again. He is only the second leader in the country's history to win 3 consecutive terms. The first was Jawaharlal Nehru. Today, Modi took oath along with 71 other leaders who will make up his Council of Ministers. It's a revamped team with a lot of new faces, including from the BJP's alliance partners. We'll tell you who's got a berth and who hasn't. But let's start from the beginning. The day began at Rajghat, a memorial complex where Prime Minister Modi paid his tributes to Mahatma Gandhi. After leaving Rajghat, Prime Minister Modi made two more stops. First, at the Sadaiv Atal, the memorial of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, former Prime Minister of India and one of the founders of Modi's party, the BJP. Vajpayee was the first leader from the BJP to become India's Prime Minister. Later, in a message on social media, Prime Minister Modi said that Vajpayee remains a guiding light for all. His third and final stop for the day was at the National War Memorial, where he paid tributes to India's fallen soldiers. As you saw, Prime Minister Modi was not alone. There was Rajnath Singh, who served as Defence Minister in the last government, the Chief of Defence Staff and the three service chiefs. They were all present there. A few hours later, the action shifted to 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, which is the Prime Minister's official residence. Now, this was the first time we saw a glimpse of the new cabinet, the brand new Team Modi. The Prime Minister hosted his cabinet colleagues for tea. This included the new members from the NDA parties as well. In the evening, they were all seated on the stage at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of India's president. More than 9,000 guests attended this ceremony. This included 7 leaders from India's neighborhood. Ranil Wickremesinghe, the president of Sri Lanka, Mohamed Muizzu, the president of the Maldives, Ahmed Afif, the vice president of Seychelles, Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Praveen Kumar Jugnauth, the Prime Minister of Mauritius, Pushp Kamal Dahal, the Prime Minister of Nepal, and Tshering Tobgay, the Prime Minister of Bhutan. They were all present at today's oath-taking ceremony. So were business tycoons and film stars. Also in attendance were the current and new MPs of both the Houses of Parliament, but many leaders from the opposition were missing. Like from the Congress, Party President Mallikarjun Kharge was in attendance. He was present in the capacity of Leader of Opposition in the upper house of Parliament, that is the Rajya Sabha. He is the Leader of Opposition. West Bengal's ruling party, the TMC, the Trinamool Congress, boycotted today's ceremony. There were some special invitees as well, like the workers who built the new Parliament building, members of the transgender community, beneficiaries of central government schemes, and 10 local pilots working with the Indian Railways. So today's ceremony was quite inclusive. It began at 7:15 p.m. local time when Prime Minister Modi was administered the oath of office for the third time.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा। मैं संघ के प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में अपने कर्तव्यों का श्रद्धापूर्वक और शुद्ध अंतःकरण से निर्वहन करूंगा।
Now let's tell you about his team. The Council of Ministers has seen a significant churn. 35 names from the second Modi government have been dropped. The new team has 71 ministers. In his first term, Prime Minister Modi started with a small Council of Ministers. He expanded the team gradually. In 2014, he began his first term in office with 45 ministers. Later, the Council of Ministers grew to 66 members. In 2019, 58 leaders took oath with Prime Minister Modi. By the end of the second term, there were 74 ministers in all. So in the third term, They seem to be following a similar pattern. There are 30 cabinet ministers, 5 ministers of state with independent charge, meaning they'll have their own portfolios, and 36 junior ministers. Now, this cabinet is diverse. The ministers come from 24 different Indian states. They bring significant experience too. 43 ministers have served at least 3 or more terms in parliament. 39 appointees have served as ministers before. Most of the old guard is still intact, like Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, Nirmala Sitharaman, Piyush Goyal, S. Jaishankar, Nitin Gadkari, Hardeep Singh Puri and Dharmendra Pradhan. These leaders have been retained. But there are also many new faces. 60 ministers are from the BJP. In this new team, 60 ministers are from the BJP and 11 are from NDA allies. The BJP has to accommodate major allies, but not everyone is said to be happy. And that brings us to our second story tonight. So Modi 3.0 is officially underway. Now let's meet his team. Like I said, 71 ministers took oath today. 85% of them belong to the BJP, meaning the party has kept 60 out of 71 ministries. The top 2 allies have got 2 ministries each. That's the TDP, the Telugu Desam Party, and the JDU, the Janata Dal United, 2 ministries each. The rest of the allies have got 1 ministry each. We'll start with the BJP first. You're familiar with most of the names here. The first is Rajnath Singh. He is a former Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. He was the party president in 2014. Rajnath Singh has headed 2 ministries under Prime Minister Modi, Home Ministry in the first term and Defence in the second. He represents the constituency of Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh. And what does he bring to the table? A lot of administrative experience, plus he is part of the BJP old guard. Then you have Amit Shah. He represents the Gandhinagar seat in Gujarat. He too was a BJP party president in 2019 when they swept to power again. After the elections, Amit Shah was inducted into the cabinet. He was in charge of the Home Ministry. In fact, Amit Shah is the most powerful Home Minister that India has had in decades. And his strength? Well, Shah is an organizational man. He's also very close to Prime Minister Modi, sort of like his right-hand man. Another minister who is returning is Nitin Gadkari. He represents the constituency of Nagpur. Gadkari is also a former BJP president. He's handled multiple ministries for the BJP like shipping, small and medium enterprises, water resources, rural development and highways. And what does Nitin Gadkari bring to the table? Well, he has close ties with the RSS. That's the ideological parent of the BJP. His track record is also very impressive, especially as highway minister. Nirmala Sitharaman is also back in the cabinet. She did not contest the Lok Sabha elections, so how did she make it to the cabinet? Via the Rajya Sabha. Sitharaman was elected to the Rajya Sabha from the state of Karnataka. She's been the finance minister of India since 2019. Before that, she was also the defense minister of the country. And her rise has been quite rapid. She was a party spokesperson until 2014. Then she held multiple junior portfolios in the first BJP government. And in 2017, she joined the big league. Sitharaman is from the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, a state that the BJP is keen to win. She's also one of the few women in the central cabinet. Piyush Goyal is also back. Again, quite a rapid rise. He managed the BJP's social media campaign in 2014. He also doubled up as a spokesperson. In the first Modi government, Piyush Goyal served as a junior minister, but in 2017, he was promoted to the cabinet. And since then, he's held multiple portfolios, including textiles, commerce, and consumer affairs. And his strength? Goyal has been leading the BJP in the Rajya Sabha. He's also been a chief communicator, both in defending the government and attacking the opposition. And this was actually his first Lok Sabha election. S. Jaishankar is another returning minister. He too did not contest the Lok Sabha elections. He's a member of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of parliament. In 2019, he was appointed the Foreign Minister of India. Now, as you know, Jaishankar is not a career politician. He was a diplomat until 2018. He retired as the Foreign Secretary of India. And his strength? Again, communication. Jaishankar has built close ties with his counterparts, especially those in the West. He's also a social media favorite among the youth. Some of his one-liners are quite popular. So these are the big names returning to the Modi cabinet. Now we come to the new names. First is Shivraj Singh Chauhan. He is a former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. He represents the seat of Vidisha. This is actually his 5th stint in the Lok Sabha. He earlier served from 1991 to 2005. And his strengths? First, a lot of administrative experience. He was Chief Minister for almost 18 years. He beat anti-incumbency to win Madhya Pradesh again in 2023. Despite that, he was not made Chief Minister. In this election, he delivered again. BJP won all 29 seats in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Another new name is JP Nadda. He is the current president of the BJP, but his term is set to expire. Nadda was the health minister in the first Modi government, but in 2020, he took over the party as party president. And what explains his elevation? Possibly his state connect. Nadda is from the state of Himachal Pradesh. It's a state that is ruled by the Congress party. Maybe the BJP is looking for some appeasement vote. Another new face is Manohar Lal Khattar, a former chief minister of Haryana. He now represents the Karnal seat. Khattar is said to be an able administrator. He also has long-standing ties with the RSS. And that is the list of the BJP leaders, the notable names. Now we come to the BJP's allies. H.D. Kumaraswamy finds himself in the cabinet. He is a former chief minister of the state of Karnataka. He represents the Mandya seat. Now, Kumaraswamy leads the JDS, the Janata Dal Secular. It's a regional party in Karnataka. It's very popular among the state's Vocaliga group. The JDS was key to the NDA's fortunes in the state. They won 19 seats, while the Congress won 9 in Karnataka. Another new face is Chirag Paswan. He leads the Lok Janashakti Party, LJP. He won from the Hajipur seat in Bihar. His party won 5 out of 5 seats that they contested. That's a 100% strike rate. His father too was an NDA minister, so there is an emotional connect as well. The LJP dominates among the Paswan community in Bihar. It also kept the state's Dalit votes intact, hence the reward. Finally, we have the minister from the TDP, the Telugu Desam party. His name is Ram Mohan Naidu. He represents the Srikakulam seat in Andhra Pradesh. At 36, he is India's youngest cabinet minister. Don't be fooled by his age, though. This is his 3rd stint in the Lok Sabha. And his strengths? For starters, he's young, but more importantly, his party is calling the shots. The TDP has 16 MPs in the new Lok Sabha. They are crucial to keeping Prime Minister Modi in power. So there you have it. This is what Modi's core team now looks like. We haven't covered all the names, of course. You also have the likes of Jyotiraditya Scindia, Prahlad Joshi and Dharmendra Pradhan. They too are back in the ministry. So the election is done. The Prime Minister has taken oath, so have the ministers. Now it's time to hit the ground running, especially on the economy front. Next month, the new government will present its first budget. The one presented in the month of February was an interim budget for the period until the new government takes charge. So now this new government will present the budget and expectations are high. The pivot from majority to a coalition government has not dampened the spirits of economists. They are still bullish about the Indian economy. Consider what India's chief economic advisor has said. His name is V. Anant Nageshwaran. In his view, a coalition government will not slow down reforms. In fact, it could accelerate them. That's his view. Let me quote from his statement. This actually makes some of the difficult reforms more feasible incrementally because it opens up space for dialogue. India's Reserve Bank is also optimistic. On Friday, they raised the growth forecast from 7 to 7.2%. Now, for the past 3 years, the Indian economy has grown at 7% or above. So the overall trajectory has not changed. But there are clear challenges too. The biggest one is jobs. It was the most significant issue of this election, and the results show that the voters have clear expectations on this front. They have delivered an unambiguous message. They want to see action on the jobs front. Unemployment remains high in India. India's youth wants more jobs. From October to December last year, almost 45% of them were unemployed. These are the new graduates, the 20 to 24-year-olds. Among the 25 to 29-year-olds as well, unemployment is rising. It crossed 14% last year, so the voters will be watching closely. for what the budget has to offer on the jobs front. They'll be watching for that. The second major issue is inflation. It remains a matter of concern, not just for the people of India, but also for the Reserve Bank, which is India's central bank. Food inflation touched a new high. In April, it hit 8.7%. This is a 4-month high, and the numbers are higher in rural India, where food inflation stood at 8.75%. Prices of basic food items and vegetables like tomato, onion and potato surged by a whopping 40%, 40. The RBI is concerned about the heat wave and the soaring temperatures. It fears that the weather could put more stress on the summer crop and that supplies need to be monitored. Plus, geopolitical tensions could make inflation worse. Consider what the RBI governor said last week. I'm quoting again. Global food prices have started inching up. Prices of industrial metals have registered double-digit growth in the current calendar year. These trends, if sustained, could accentuate the recent uptick in input cost conditions for firms. And this will have a trickle-down effect. If the prices for raw materials rise, manufacturers will start charging consumers more, and as a result, you'll end up paying more. So inflation remains a big worry. The government may need to wage a protracted battle against it. Those are the two domestic issues. Meanwhile, the world's eyes will be on the government's reform agenda to see if the compulsions of coalition politics impact the government's priorities. Prime Minister Modi said it won't.
इस आशीर्वाद के लिए मैं सभी देशवासियों का ऋणी हूं। आज बड़ा मंगल है और इस पावन दिन एनडीए की लगातार तीसरी बार सरकार बननी तय है। हम सभी जनता जनार्दन के बहुत आभारी हैं। देशवासियों ने भाजपा पर, एनडीए पर पूर्ण विश्वास जताया है। हम भारतीय मिलकर चलेंगे, देश को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। तीसरे कार्यकाल में देश बड़े फैसलों का एक नया अध्याय लिखेगा।
The Indian Prime Minister says he won't shy away from taking big decisions. Needless to say, his moves will be tracked as he takes charge again to lead the world's fastest growing large economy.
Narendra Modi. Narendra Damodar Modi,
It's a busy calendar for India. The new government will have to hit the ground running. Later this week, Prime Minister Modi will head to Italy. He will attend the G7 summit there. Meanwhile, the foreign minister will head to Russia. He will attend a BRICS meeting there. And that probably sums up India's comfortable position. It is part of both camps. Then a top US official is coming to New Delhi. That's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. After that, Modi will head out for another important summit, that of the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is being hosted by Kazakhstan in July. So like I said, a very busy calendar up ahead. In all these places, continuity will help. It's the same Prime Minister, it's the same Foreign Minister, and also the same policy. Having said that, this is a new term, so the government must look to expand its vision. Modi's first term focused on West Asia. Look at all the countries that he visited as Prime Minister: the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Oman, Jordan, Palestine, Qatar, Iran. Some of these countries gave awards to him, like Palestine and Saudi Arabia. In the second term, the Prime Minister went even further west. He was invited to the US on a state visit. He was chief guest on France's National Day. He became a regular figure at G7 summits. Which brings us to the third term. What should Prime Minister Modi focus on? The East, especially the Indo-Pacific. This region will become the nerve center of the world. It houses 64% of the world population, 62% of the global GDP, and 50% of global trade. But it's also a political tinderbox. You've got multiple looming conflicts in this region. You have China versus Taiwan, China versus the Philippines, North Korea versus the South, and the US versus China. So India needs to start making moves here, and we are seeing indications of that. Last year, Prime Minister Modi traveled to Papua New Guinea. He attended a forum with leaders of the Pacific Islands. India is also sending more warships to Southeast Asia. In the month of May, 3 Indian Navy vessels docked in Singapore. Before that, India held joint drills with ASEAN. It's a bloc of Southeast Asian nations. Now, all of this has happened in the last 1 year. It tells you what to expect in the next term. A clear focus on the Act East policy. The same should be done with the Quad. The Indo-Pacific has been crowded by a number of multilateral blocs, so the Quad must retain its relevance. The last summit was held in 2023. This year, it's India's turn to host the Quad summit, but it's election season in the US, so Joe Biden may not be willing to travel. I guess India will have to find a way to keep the momentum going. A second priority is the neighborhood. We've mentioned this before. China is making inroads in the South Asian region. So India must fight back. It's the basic rule of geopolitics. If your neighborhood is not secure, you cannot think global. You cannot progress in peace. You have a boycott India movement in Bangladesh, an India out movement in the Maldives. So New Delhi must focus on 2 aspects. First is the investments and joint projects. Second is the soft power. That is India's trump card in the region. You have a lot of cultural similarities, a lot of linguistic similarities, and not to mention a lot of shared history. The key is to utilize that in the right way. There is a growing perception that India is trying to act like a big brother. Maybe New Delhi should look at that and look to correct that. These are Modi's 2 main foreign policy priorities. The question is, will a coalition hamper these goals? It's highly unlikely. But there is one thing that Modi should be mindful of, and that is parliamentary scrutiny. Just consider India's ties with China. In 2022, it became the focus of a parliamentary standoff. The opposition wanted a debate. They said the government strategy must be questioned, but the NDA rejected the request. You may remember what happened next. Opposition leaders stormed the well of the House. They pushed adjournment motions, even walked out multiple times, yet the government did not agree to a debate. But that may not work anymore. The opposition has more than 230 seats in the Lok Sabha, so their voice will be harder to ignore. I guess it's the same as domestic policy. A bigger opposition equals more scrutiny. Let's see how Prime Minister Modi and S. Jaishankar handle this new pressure. Now that we have a new government in place, the work begins. The focus will be on the first 100 days. It is said that they can make or break a government. It's a crucial period, and governments can do a lot with it. They can signal their priorities. They can take bold decisions. They can build momentum for the next 5 years. So what will the first 100 days of this government look like? Will there be more focus on coalition partners? Will they shape the government's policies? Will Modi 3.0 continue to focus on development, or will welfare schemes get a boost? Our next report looks at the road ahead.
नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा.
The swearing in is done. The cabinet is locked. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is back for a historic third term. So what happens next? First on the list is the new session of the Lok Sabha, that's the lower house of the Indian Parliament. This will be the 18th Lok Sabha. It's likely to be convened next week. Once that happens, newly elected candidates will take oath as members of the House. A speaker will be elected. Then the President will address a joint session of both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, that's the upper house. It's during this session that Prime Minister Modi will introduce his Council of Ministers to both houses. In the 543-member Lok Sabha, the BJP-led NDA has 292 MPs. Meanwhile, the India bloc has 232 MPs. So it's quite a narrow gap compared to previous years, which means the opposition will get better representation in parliamentary panels. Plus, they will have more speaking time. With bigger numbers, they will be allotted more time to debate an issue. So it will be a bigger and better represented opposition. But it's not just the Lok Sabha that will look different. There will be a shift in the new government's policies. The BJP showcased a pro-growth investment-focused manifesto during the election campaign. But alone, the party doesn't have the majority. It is dependent on its allies. So policies will be a mixed bag. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the focus is on development, but it's likely that welfare schemes too will get a boost. That will reflect in the new budget. The full union budget is expected in a month, sometime in mid-July. Chances are it will be a populist budget. It will focus on welfare schemes, even direct social schemes to address voter concerns. It's likely to focus on rural distress and on household savings of the middle class. Which brings us to policies and reforms. During the elections, Prime Minister Modi set an ambitious agenda, a mega 100-day plan. It involved things like a new electricity act, new labour laws, simplification of the GST regime, boost in income support given to farmers, insurance sector reforms, changes in the insolvency and bankruptcy code, and extension of production-linked insurance schemes. While a coalition government could mean selective, tough reforms, reports suggest this 100-day agenda is still in the works. The focus will remain on sectors like manufacturing and infrastructure. Make in India reforms will continue to be a priority. Defence modernization will be ramped up. Semiconductor manufacturing will receive a boost. Even with all the coalition dynamics, the Modi government will push ahead with its goal of Vikshit Bharat, that is, making India a developed country by 2047.
There's always a difference between planning and implementation. Politicians make a slew of promises while on the campaign trail, but the implementation is a different story altogether, because after the results, political realities come into play. And the reality this time is this. It's not a BJP majority government, it's a coalition government. A government that will have to listen to its allies. And the fact is that the allies may have things to say that the government won't like. Take this for example.
अग्निवीर योजना को लेकर के मतदाताओं के एक हिस्से में नाराजगी रही है। हमारी पार्टी चाहती है कि विस्तार से उन कमियों खामियों को दूर किया जाए, जिसको लेकर के जनता ने सवाल उठाए।
That was JDU spokesperson. He spoke about the Agnipath scheme. It's a recruitment scheme for the Indian Armed Forces. Under it, applicants, or Agniveers as they're called, serve for 4 years. Only 25% of these recruits are retained after this 4-year stint. The remaining 75% have to go. And this has led to considerable backlash. Almost every opposition party has spoken out against the scheme, and the BJP's allies also want it reviewed. New reports say that there are talks to tweak the scheme. That's also what the JDU spokesperson had asked for. But if the Agnipath scheme stays unpopular, the BJP's allies may demand that it gets scrapped. And this is not the only contentious issue. There's also the UCC, the Uniform Civil Code. Presently, different religious communities in India follow different personal laws. These are laws related to personal matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance. Different laws for different religions. The BJP government had proposed doing away with this and bringing in a single law for all religious communities in India. Now, this is another hotly debated issue and may lead to resentment in some quarters. After all, the UCC seeks to change customs that people have followed for centuries. Now, the JDU says that they're not against the UCC, but they want a discussion on the topic with all stakeholders. The TDP also wants a discussion on the Uniform Civil Code, which means that the allies could now control the law's fate. So the Agnipath scheme and the UCC will be discussed. Another major issue will be delimitation. India is the most populous nation in the world. We recently overtook China for that title. India has been growing continuously for decades. But you know what hasn't kept up with this growth? The number of parliamentary seats. India has 543 Lok Sabha seats, and this number has remained fixed since 1973, when India's population was about 500 million. So our population has grown about 2.5 times since the 1970s, but our parliamentary seats have not grown. Why is that? Because not all regions have grown equally. Certain states, especially the ones in South India, have a slow population growth. They successfully implemented family planning policies early on, but other states took much longer to reduce their population growth. And this has led to a disparity. Now, the southern states found themselves shrinking as a percentage of India's total population. And that is why expanding the parliament has been put on hold since 1973, because it was almost like punishing the southern states for doing a good job. But now, after more than 50 years, the Indian Parliament is set to expand again. The delimitation freeze ends in 2026. It can take place any year after that, any year after 2026. The BJP wants to go ahead with delimitation, but some southern states are afraid that this will hurt their representation in Parliament. The TDP is a party from a southern state. It has skin in the game, so it will have red lines when it comes to delimitation. But for now, they're keeping their cards to themselves, hiding their position under the garb of discussions. But there's one red line that the TDP has not been shy about spelling out, and that is the Muslim quota in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh has a 4% reservation for Muslim people. The BJP has been against religion-based quotas, but the TDP says nothing doing. Andhra Pradesh's Muslim quota is not going anywhere.
Poverty remains high among Muslims today. It's our responsibility to help them in times like this. This is why we will save the 4% reservation for Muslims. There's no other idea in this.
The Muslim quota is the TDP's explicit red line, no discussion. All the others are also points of friction between the BJP and its allies. We'll see in the coming months and years how this plays out, whether the BJP can find common ground or if the red lines end up tearing the NDA government apart. We spoke about the BJP's allies. Now let's look at the opposition. This time the BJP has no choice but to acknowledge them. The largest opposition alliance, that is the India bloc, has 234 seats. That's almost as much as the BJP's own tally. This is a far cry from the last election in 2019, where the BJP got 303 seats on its own, and the NDA had 353 seats. They control 65% of the parliament, enough to ignore the opposition with no side effects. But this time the opposition are much better placed. The Lok Sabha will even have a leader of the opposition, a post that has been vacant for the last 10 years. So let's take a closer look at this opposition. Big names, the prominent parties, and what will this revitalized opposition be able to do? Here's our report.
The Indian election results have given new life to the opposition. For 10 years, India's opposition was almost silent. They didn't have the parliamentary numbers to make a difference. That's not the case anymore. Here's the proof. After 10 years, the Lok Sabha will be getting a leader of the opposition. Between 2014 and now, the post has been vacant because no opposition party had 10% of the seats in the Lok Sabha. That is a minimum requirement for the leader of the opposition post. No party had managed to cross this threshold in the last 2 elections. But that has changed now. And that's a shot in the arm for the opposition. Because the leader of the opposition isn't just some honorary designation, it's an official position, the equivalent of a cabinet ministry. The leader of the opposition gets the same perks and salary as a cabinet minister, and the post comes with a few responsibilities. The leader of the opposition gets to be a part of some appointment committees. They can help choose the heads of various statutory bodies, like India's Central Vigilance Commission, the Central Information Commission, the Central Bureau of Investigation or CBI, India's National Human Rights Commission or NHRC. These are just a few examples. For the last 10 years, there has been no leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, meaning that the government got to decide all the heads of these bodies, with no pushback. They may still get their way, but they will face questions and resistance now. So, who will become the new leader of the opposition? The post goes to the largest opposition party. Today, that's the Indian National Congress. And the Congress has asked Rahul Gandhi to take up the post. The offer is apparently on the table, and the Congress is eagerly awaiting his reply.
Rahul ji had heard sentiments of the CWC. He told the CWC that he will take a decision very soon.
So, we should know if Rahul Gandhi is the new leader of the opposition very soon. That was the Congress, the biggest opposition party. After that, you have the SP, the Samajwadi Party. They have 37 Lok Sabha seats. Their leader is Akhilesh Yadav. He was the leader of the opposition in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. But he's giving that up to lead his party in the Lok Sabha. That sends a powerful message, that he isn't planning to sit back. So it seems that he plans to play an active role in the opposition. After the SP, there's the TMC, the All India Trinamool Congress Party. The TMC has 29 Lok Sabha seats, making them the fourth largest in Parliament, after the BJP, the Congress and the SP. The party is led by the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee. She doesn't always see eye to eye with her fellow opposition members. She refused to contest the recent elections together in her state. But she does seem to be in step with them in one area, her staunch opposition to the BJP government.
I'm sorry, but I cannot wish well to an unconstitutional, illegal party for forming the government. My best wishes will be for the country. Let's hope for the best.
She seems to be gearing up for a fight, and her party is likely to oppose everything that the new government does. After the TMC, there's the DMK, the party that rules the southern state of Tamil Nadu. Their leader, M.K. Stalin, is the chief minister of the state. They have 22 seats in parliament. That shows that after the BJP, the next four biggest parties are all members of the opposition, of the India bloc. If intra-alliance rivalries don't get in the way, they will be taking on the BJP together. Individually, they don't come close to the BJP in terms of parliamentary seats, but together they have the numbers to hold their own. The only question is, will they manage to stick together for the next 5 years?
One question has been doing the rounds since result day. Can Modi manage a coalition? He's never had to in his career. Modi first became Chief Minister of Gujarat in the year 2001. That's almost 23 years back. And since then, he's always had a majority, whether it's in the State Assembly or in India's National Parliament. So can he adjust to coalition politics? The simple answer is that he has to. Sharing power is not easy for any politician. But that's the mantra of coalitions. So can Prime Minister Modi also subscribe to it? Let's look at his political career to find clues. In his youth, Modi was a follower of Vivekananda. He wanted to mix spirituality and patriotism. In the late 1960s, that landed him in the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. It's the ideological parent of the BJP. There, he slowly climbed the ranks. During the emergency, Modi went underground. He gathered aid for jailed RSS leaders. And after the emergency, his career took off. In 1978, Modi began heading an RSS branch. In 1981, he got another promotion. His new job was to consolidate different Hindu groups. During this time, he began organizational work, like holding rallies or marches. So the BJP took notice of his work. In 1986, L.K. Advani became the party president. He asked Modi to help the BJP out. Again, organization remained his strength. In 1990, Advani took out a Rath Yatra to Ayodhya. That was the real turning point for the BJP, and Modi organized the Gujarat leg of it. The next year, he organized another yatra, the Ekta Yatra of Murli Manohar Joshi, and this was a pan-India operation, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So by the 1990s, Narendra Modi was a key person in the BJP. He wasn't a face of the party, but he managed the backroom. Meanwhile, major changes were happening in the state of Gujarat. The once invincible Congress party was defeated. In 1995, a BJP chief minister took charge. Modi was not part of that government, but he wielded considerable power. Soon, divisions emerged within the BJP in Gujarat, and Modi found himself at the center of it. So the party pulled him out of the state. He was given charge of the states of Punjab, Haryana and Kashmir. He remained there for 6 years. And in 2001, he returned reluctantly. A BJP-led government was ruling at the center. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. He personally asked Narendra Modi to become the Chief Minister of Gujarat. At first, he rejected the request, but eventually he gave in. The BJP was in a bad shape when Modi took over. They had lost the local elections in Gujarat, but Modi turned it around. He won the 2002 elections in the state. It was held in the backdrop of a major communal riot, one that killed around 800 Muslims. Modi would go on to win 2 more terms. He won in 2007. He won again in 2012. Of course, he did not complete that last term, 2012, because in 2014, he became Prime Minister of India. It's indeed a very special journey. No political connections, no ancestral wealth, yet Modi rose to the top of India's political order. It's a story that he narrates often on the campaign trail. And it's clearly a crowd favorite. But does it say anything about his temperament? Well, consider the evolution. Modi started off as an ordinary worker in the RSS. He then became a branch head, then a party organizer, then a party leader, then a chief minister, and finally a prime minister. So he has adapted to different roles in the past. But this could be his biggest challenge yet. There is brewing dissent among party workers. His alliance partners are shaky and the opposition is emboldened. If Modi can turn this around, it will be special. Maybe he should tap into his diplomatic skills, because on the world stage, Modi's position is quite tricky, balancing 2 camps, humoring the West and leading the global South. And he's shown a lot of flexibility and warmth in his foreign policy. Maybe he can replicate that at home too. You saw the oath-taking ceremony, the grand setting, thousands of people. But how did it all start? Our last story tonight is about the oath-taking ceremony itself. It's the formal taking of office. It started in 1947, and since then, it's changed quite a bit. The language of the oath remains much of the same, but the way it happens is very different now. From being telecast live to the setting at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the attendance of foreign leaders, our next report takes a look at swearing-in ceremonies of Indian Prime Ministers over the years.
The midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
And with that, the clock struck midnight, August 15th, 1947. The Darbar Hall of the Rashtrapati Bhavan was buzzing with excitement. India was independent, and the world watched as Jawaharlal Nehru took his oath. He became the country's first Prime Minister. The oath ceremony in its essence hasn't changed much, except then it was administered by Lord Mountbatten, India's last Viceroy. By the end of the ceremony, Nehru had no choice but to escape. The crowd outside was surging. They wanted a glimpse of free India's first leader, and Nehru had to leave through a secret exit.
I,
Indira Gandhi,
do solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to
the Constitution of India as by law established.
The language of Indira Gandhi's oath wasn't much different from her father. But the occasion was momentous. She was the 3rd Prime Minister of India, but the first female Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi would go ahead to take this oath thrice, but not consecutively. 1977 brought with it a massive change. India's first non-Congress Prime Minister. Morarji Desai of the Janata Party.
ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूँ, ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूँ कि जो विषय संघ के मंत्री के रूप में
His oath symbolized a renewal of democratic norms. It stressed on a commitment to restoring the constitutional integrity just after the emergency. In 1984, it was back to the Congress again. Indira Gandhi was assassinated. Her son, Rajiv Gandhi, was appointed Prime Minister. At 40, he was the youngest Prime Minister of India. It was the first time the event was telecast live.
I, Rajiv Gandhi,
do solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance
While the text of the oath remained the same, it promised modernization and a focus on technological advancement. Until then, the oath-taking ceremonies happened in the Darbar Hall. But it changed in 1990. It was during the Prime Minister Chandrasekhar's oath-taking ceremony. The event was moved to the Rashtrapati Bhavan's forecourt. There were two reasons for this. One, to appeal to the masses, and two, to accommodate more people.
विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची
Atal Bihari Vajpayee took the oath thrice, first for a term of 13 days. Then for a term of 13 months, and finally for a full term from 1999 to 2004. So there were multiple oaths, but the language of his oath was consistent. It stressed on democratic principles, even as the country's political landscape was changing. He too took the oath of office in the open. And Narendra Modi followed in Vajpayee's footsteps. He was the third Prime Minister to be sworn in at the forecourt after Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Chandrasekhar. In his 2014 ceremony, he had 4,000 guests, including foreign leaders.
Narendra Modi. मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी.
In 2019, the guest list was even bigger, 6,000 people. And this time, around 9,000 people attended as Prime Minister Narendra Modi took oath for a historic third term.
That's all that we have for you on this special edition of Vantage. The swearing in may be over, but there is a lot to look forward to. The Parliament will convene soon, the MPs will take oath, and a resurgent opposition is looking to corner the government. We'll be tracking all of these developments for you. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.